Hi, I'm Adam, the creator of Here Be Taverns, which is a app to generate content for fantasy role-playing games. Today, I want to show you the Towns generator, which is a new generator which is launching this week. And yeah, let's walk through it. So we're looking at the Towns generator right now, and it does what you would expect. It generates infinite towns. Uh, when you're looking at the town, a single town, you'll get the name of the place, a beautiful map, which is created by Watabu's excellent village generator. I will leave a link to that other generator in the description because it's so amazing. So I've used some of the output from that generator to make these maps. Towns have a description, which I'll talk more about in a second, a list of buildings you might find in the area, and a nearby landmark, which might be an interesting place to go on a quest or something like that. So that's a town in a nutshell. When you're generating them, you can specify the locale, and you'll notice that when you do that, for example, if I go to the mountains, it affects the color palette of the map for each town. And it also, it's more subtle, but pinning it to a locale will affect some of the things that appear in the descriptions for the town and for the buildings. So that's a way you can sort of personalize the collection a bit. Let's talk more about descriptions. Like this one, some still remember the war with the dragon. The town description, even though it's kind of a simple one-liner, rolls in a bunch of interesting different variants and options to keep things fresh and interesting. And I'll talk through this. I'll show you some of the code I wrote to create the description so you can get an idea, a visual idea. So if I go to town description, yeah. So here's a town description, and you'll see within it, we have this chance to see different things. So you might get something about a historical event, like the war with the dragon was one we just saw. You might see something about the renown, like things that the town is notable for, like cultural practices. You might get a rumor, some secrets, suspicious things happening. There's sometimes information about the local flora and fauna, their main export, or the weather happening in the area. So all these things mixed together produce a lot of interesting variety for the generator. Okay, let's get into buildings. I think for me, the list of buildings ended up being the real meat of this generator. You'll notice there's different types of buildings, and they each have their own description. And some of the buildings, such as the tavern, and in this case, the bakery, have a name. Now, this was a ton of work because it meant that for every single type of building I could dream up, I had to come up with a name generator for that type of building. And one way I ended up making that manageable was I restricted it to only commercial buildings getting names. So things like a temple or a guard post don't have names at this time. Maybe in the future I'll add those, but I wanted this to be done sometime this year. So to give you an idea in the code, I'll show you the building name generator. It's pretty good. So building names is just hundreds of lines of code trying to deal with trying to provide some sort of sensible name for every single type of commercial building I could think up with, which was like 100 or something. So a lot of code, but good results in the generator. I think they're pretty cool. So buildings, I thought, were so useful and interesting. I liked the names, and it occurred to me that you might want to take a building, you might want to just generate buildings on their own to drop into a town you've already been working on, already been developing. So you'll see up here you can click the buildings, flip the building switch here, and you get this view that's just showing buildings, just generating buildings. So you can cycle through those to your heart's desire. The new thing with buildings, they also have the locale filter. They've been categorized. So I came up with these categories myself, but I think they represent a pretty good spread of the types of places you might be interested in. So the commercial buildings are the ones that have names. And so you'll see you get the name and then the actual specific type. Another cool detail here that I added in was trying to make sure that the characters that populated places had professions which were appropriate to the building, like as much as possible. So in this case, it's a tea shop, and the person who runs the place, Kiernan, is an herbalist. So I think, I had to do some extra work to get that consistency, but I think the results were pretty cool. So commercial buildings are kind of like shops, places you can go and spend money. There's also social buildings, which are places that people might gather nearby. Military locations, such as Stronghold, Gatehouse, things like that. Spiritual represents places that might be like an organized religion, such as monasteries, but also places like ley line crossings or ritual circles, places that are still spiritual, but maybe not as organized in their religious practices. Residential locations are places people might live, like a witch's hut, apparently. And industrial locations are like places that probably are more on the boundaries of the town and producing something to provide to the shops in town, like a vineyard as a good example. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. This is coming out this week. This is the towns generator, and as a bonus, you get the buildings. I do want to point out, though, that this generator is part of the Here Be Taverns premium pass, which means that to access the full capabilities of this generator, you'll have to purchase a premium pass. And for details on that, you can go to the sidebar here and click on premium to see the price of that. It's a one-time purchase. You just buy it once, and you get access to this generator forever, as well as my other premium generators, which are factions. This one's already been complete, so this is ready to look at. And encounters, which is not complete yet, but I'll be working on that next. If you want to save a little bit of money, I'd recommend signing up in the footer for my newsletter, because whenever I launch something like this week when I launch Towns, I will send an email to say, okay, it's live now, and I'll be providing a discount code to newsletter subscribers. So if you want to save a bit, check that out. So thanks so much for your time, and I hope you're enjoying Here Be Taverns, and I really hope you enjoy Towns.